I, 21F, have been friends with 21M, Mike, fake name, for 16 years. We became friends officially in kindergarten, but our parents were college friends. I honestly can't even call him a best friend, he's like a sibling, and in a way we were raised as siblings. Group family holidays, sleepovers, family vacations on both sides. At one point we even all lived together for a year. I'm saying this because I know some people will ask. No, there's been no crushes or feelings on either side, at all. We haven't kissed, confessed feelings or had crushes. It's been strictly sibling-like, and I'm saying that now because of what Mike's girlfriend has been saying. Me and Mike share an apartment together near campus as we both attend college together. Around 7 months ago, Mike met his girlfriend, 21F April, fake name. Now, I thought we got along okay. I've only met her a couple of times because she has anxiety, but I had no problem at all with her until recently besides some minor things. Sometimes, she would interject when Mike would call me his sister. It wasn't always, but normally like, well, technically you aren't siblings, which is 100% true, but it's how we viewed each other since we were kids. So almost a month ago, my class got cancelled, so I came home early. I walk in and right on the couch is Mike and April having sex. I scream, run to my room and frantically yell at Mike via text. He apologized, said he thought I would be gone longer. I made him clean the couch. All good, right? No, April for some reason got upset, and felt that, her words, I did that on purpose, despite it never happening before, and that it was inappropriate of me to walk in on them. Again, this was in the living room, absolutely disgusting in my opinion, but I moved on. Because it's not a big deal, embarrassing, but nothing crazy. Anyway, Mike H. has been stressed recently because April had been asking him to distance from me. I thought she was just embarrassed, which I'd understand, so I tried being friendly and apologized. Well, last weekend, Mike sat me down and basically said that I had to move out, because his girlfriend was upset with me living with him. I was floored. I got so upset, I don't think I've yelled and cried that much in my life. The basics is that he doesn't want me to, but he's pressured from his girlfriend and he really loves her, so he wants to make her happy. He thinks that this shouldn't change our friendship and that he's just putting some distance between us. See, if he had asked me to move out, I'd understand. Okay, yeah, maybe you want to take your relationship to the next level, okay. But it was a demand. And not only that, he wanted to put space between our friendship. It was so fucking hurtful. I've known him for 16 years and that's it? I'm gone for someone he's known for 7 months? I said he was choosing a short relationship over his sister, and that I don't want him to contact me if he's going to be like that. He said I was overreacting, but I called my parents and got them to pick me up literally. Thank God they don't live far away, but like, what if they did? What did he expect me to fucking do? Just sleep outside or something? Anyway, I obviously had to tell my parents what was going on given they had to pick me up and I was an emotional mess. I told them everything, which caused a bit of an argument when they went to pick up some of my things the next day. They called Mike's parents and kind of chewed them out a little, and from my understanding they called Mike and did the same. Mike messaged me to say that he was upset I couldn't be civil and that he feels like I am throwing away a friendship. I blocked him shortly after. I've taken some time off classes, but I'm so fucking hurt and upset. It hurts that he could just throw me away so easily. I don't think I did anything wrong, telling my parents, but I think it may have crossed a line when they phoned Mike's parents. Like I said previously, our parents are really close, and it's kind of messed with their friendship now. His parents have been really kind and apologetic, even though it's not their fault, and a part of me feels like I made this into a bigger mess. Sorry if it's a bit chaotic, I'm on phone and still a bit emotional. Also, I know I didn't have to leave. Me and Mike both pay an equal amount of rent for the apartment, but I didn't want to stay in a place that I wasn't wanted. It would have just made it difficult and worst case scenario, he'd leave, which would have put a financial strain on me. Edit, I read you all loud and clear. Thank you for waking my ass up. I've talked to my landlord. She said that she was uncomfortable with April moving in because she doesn't know her. I understood, so I am moving my ass back tomorrow. I unblocked Mike and informed him. I explained that until our landlord says otherwise, I'm staying. Either he can leave and get a new place and keep paying the rent, or we can end our agreement together, and if our landlord agrees they can start one. He replied okay, we can talk about it tomorrow, so, we see. Update 1. I came back to the apartment yesterday morning. I let Mike know beforehand and asked if April not be there so we could talk alone. Mike was quite emotional and apologetic, which surprised me a little. I found out a bit more information that makes a bit more sense now. Mike has been under a lot of pressure for a while now to drop me. He thought that me moving out and distancing himself would be enough to appease April while still keeping our friendship. Obviously he didn't expect me to take it the way I did, although what other way would I take it? And he didn't expect me to leave that day. I mean, yeah, he didn't specifically say pack your shit and leave now, but saying you need to leave. And saying that he wanted distance over our 16-year relationship out of nowhere makes me feel like I couldn't have just gone to bed normally, you know? I've read everyone's comments so many times, I've drilled it into my head, so as much as it hurts, I'm keeping my distance from Mike at the moment. The fact that he never once told me about April wanting him to not talk to me, and he didn't even consider my circumstances before asking me to leave, where else could I go? It's not a definite end of our friendship, but I'm not feeling pretty positive. Anyway. He's apologized. He said that he missed me while I was gone and that he knew he fucked up after he told me to leave, but that he just wanted to make April happy since he could see a future with her. April has lost her shit, to put it mildly, and she threw up a storm in the lobby of our apartment last night. Mike refused to let her in, which understandably made her lose her shit even more. Tons of colorful words thrown about on both ends. I'm a homewrecker, a whore, a bitch, which is laughable. Anyway, she's not to be allowed into our apartment now, period, at least until he decides on their relationship. Mike has been pretty upset today. He wants space from April because he said that he wants to end the relationship. Very surprising, but I'm cautiously optimistic, since I'm not sure how willing he'll be. We've had a bit of a heart-to-heart. Regardless of how upset and hurt I am, he's my brother. I'm trying to be a bitch like I wanted to when I moved back in, but it's so fucking hard when he's all mopey and sad. I told him that if he continues seeing her, I'm putting some distance between us respectfully to avoid this happening again. He said he doesn't want that. I talked with my landlord before moving back. She didn't want April moving in as she doesn't know her. She was a bit upset that this situation was happening as she didn't want drama, which I understand. I've moved back and I've discussed the lease with Mike. We renew in September, or that was the plan, so now we're deciding on how to go ahead. I feel like it'll be best for me to get my own place. Maybe this was long overdue, to be honest, although Mike is saying that he wants us to continue being roommates next year, so we're discussing this at the moment. It's not really a super dramatic update, but at least the leasing issue has been solved. I'm not being kicked out or leaving until our lease is done. April isn't coming over for the foreseeable future. Only issue right now is my relationship with Mike. It's very awkward in the apartment. You can tell something's changed. He's been trying to be friendly like we were before all of this, and he's apologized a lot, which I appreciate. But I'm finding it a bit difficult to move on and go back to normal. I'm not being a bitch or mean, just slightly distant. Update 2. First off, let's talk about Mike and April. After her blow up in our lobby, and subsequent banshee impersonation outside our apartment, Mike officially ended things with her about 2 weeks ago. The breakup was messy, as you can imagine. April didn't take it well and kept trying to contact him. She even attempted to guilt him into giving their relationship one more chance by claiming I was manipulating him. I'll admit, that stung more than it should have. It's exhausting to be cast as the villain in a story you never signed up for. But here's the kicker, she actually showed up at his job. She caused a scene, yelling about how I poisoned their relationship. Mike was mortified, and his manager had to escort her out. He's been pretty quiet about his feelings since then, but I can tell he's embarrassed and probably questioning his own judgment. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a part of me that felt vindicated. But mostly, I just feel tired of the drama. Living together has been strange. Mike is trying so hard to fix things, but it feels like we're walking on eggshells around each other. He's been doing all these little things to make up for his screw up, offering to cook, cleaning without me asking, and even surprising me with snacks he knows I like. It's sweet, but it's also a reminder that things aren't the same. We had a big talk last week, and I told him point blank that while I appreciated his efforts, it's going to take time for me to fully trust him again. He seemed genuinely remorseful and said he understood, but I can tell it hurts him that I'm not bouncing back to normal as quickly as he'd like. As for the lease, we've decided that this will be our last year living together. It wasn't an easy decision, but I think it's for the best. We both need space to grow and figure out what our friendship looks like moving forward. Oh boy, the parent situation is a whole other can of worms. My parents and Mike's parents had a long talk a couple of weeks ago. They've agreed to stay out of our situation moving forward, but there's definitely some tension now. Mike's mom apologized profusely for everything that happened and even sent me a little care package, chocolates, tea, and a handwritten note. It was sweet, but also a bit awkward. My parents, on the other hand, are still pretty angry at Mike. They've been supportive of my decision to stay in the apartment, but they've made it clear they don't trust him as much anymore. Family holidays are going to be interesting. On a more personal note, I've been seeing a therapist to help process everything. It's been incredibly helpful to have someone neutral to talk to. I've realized that part of why this whole situation hurts so much is because I've always seen Mike as my rock, someone who would never let me down. To have that image shattered so suddenly was a wake-up call. I've also started focusing more on myself. I've joined a yoga class, reconnected with some old friends, and even started looking into internships for next semester. It feels good to have things to look forward to that aren't tied to this whole mess. Mike and I are trying to rebuild our friendship, but it's definitely a work in progress. We're talking more, and there are moments where it feels like the old us, watching movies, laughing at stupid memes, and debating over the best pizza toppings. But those moments are fleeting, and there's an underlying tension that wasn't there before. I've made it clear to Mike that I'm not going to put myself in a position where someone else can dictate our friendship again. He said he understands, but only time will tell if he truly does. Update 3. After officially breaking up with April, he's been doing a lot of soul searching, as he calls it. A few days ago, he sat me down for another heart-to-heart. I wasn't exactly thrilled at the prospect of another emotional conversation, but what he told me caught me completely off guard. Mike admitted that his relationship with April wasn't as perfect as he made it seem. Apparently, she'd been insecure about me from the very beginning, even before she met me. She would constantly bring up how weird it was that he had a close female friend and how she didn't believe that we'd never had feelings for each other. Mike told me he tried to reassure her, but it only got worse over time. He confessed that he felt like he was walking a tightrope, trying to keep both of us happy. He admitted he caved to her demands because he thought it would prove his loyalty to her and make her feel more secure. Hearing that was bittersweet. On one hand, I appreciated his honesty, but on the other, it hurt to realize he prioritized someone else's insecurities over our 16-year friendship. Then came the kicker. Mike said he wanted to make things right between us. He told me he's been reading books on setting boundaries and healthy relationships. Who is this guy? And he wants to rebuild our friendship from the ground up. He even offered to move out early and cover the rent for the rest of the lease if I needed space. I didn't know what to say. I told him I needed time to think about everything. Remember how I mentioned that April was banned from the apartment? Well, that hasn't stopped her from trying to stir the pot. About a week ago, she started DMing me on Instagram. At first, it was your typical passive-aggressive nonsense. Things like, I hope you're happy ruining people's lives and you'll never find someone who loves you the way Mike loved me. Real mean girls energy. I ignored her, but then she started sending screenshots of old messages between her and Mike, trying to prove that he never really cared about me. It was so bizarre and desperate that I actually laughed out loud. I didn't respond, but I did show them to Mike, who immediately blocked her on everything and threatened legal action if she didn't leave me alone. The cherry on top? April posted a cryptic rant on Facebook, because of course she did, about fake friends and manipulative girls. I've had mutual friends reach out to ask what happened, and while I've tried to keep it vague, I'm sure the full story will come out eventually. The awkwardness between Mike and me hasn't completely disappeared, but there have been some surprising moments of levity. For instance, Mike accidentally set off the fire alarm while trying to cook an apology dinner for me. He swore up and down that he was making a fancy pasta dish, but whatever it was looked like a crime against Italian cuisine. We ended up ordering takeout and laughing about it, which felt like a tiny step toward normalcy. That said, I've been actively looking for a new place. I've toured a few apartments near campus, and there's one I'm seriously considering. It's a little pricey, but I think having my own space would be worth it. Mike has been supportive, even offering to help me move when the time comes. Oh, and the parent drama? That's still simmering. Mike's parents came over last weekend to check in on him, grill him about his life choices. I wasn't planning on being around for that, but I accidentally walked in during what can only be described as a full-blown intervention. His mom was crying, his dad was pacing, and Mike looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. They were upset that he let his relationship with April spiral so far out of control and jeopardize not only our friendship but also the close bond between our families. I felt like an intruder, so I awkwardly excused myself and went to a friend's place for the evening. Mike told me later that his parents are pressuring him to attend therapy to work on himself. I didn't say it out loud, but I kind of agree with them. Despite everything, I can see glimmers of the old Mike, the goofy, reliable guy who was basically my brother. We've started doing small things together again, like watching movies and playing video games, but it's different now. There's a cautiousness that wasn't there before, like we're both afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing. I don't know if our friendship will ever fully recover, but I'm starting to think that's okay. People grow, and sometimes relationships need to evolve to survive. Now on to second story. Decided to confront the dilemma of exposing our toddler to second-hand smoke or facing family outrage over declining Thanksgiving. My husband, 28 male, and I, 27F, have been invited to his aunt and uncle's house for Thanksgiving this year, along with my father-in-law's, FIL, immediate family. The uncle is Phil's brother, to help connect things. My husband's parents are divorced, so the holidays consist of mostly stress, running around to everyone's celebration and, without a doubt, someone being upset they didn't get enough time. Add that to now having our first child, 16 Mo, that everyone wants to see and celebrate with, and we've got ourselves a pretty large shit show. That being said, we've been invited to go to his uncle's for Thanksgiving this year and they live out of state. This eliminates the requirement of running around, which my husband really hates, so that alone makes want to go. However, his aunt and uncle smoke cigarettes in their house. We went for Thanksgiving 2 years ago, while I was pregnant, and they were smoking while sitting right next to me. To those who may be thinking maybe they didn't know, we told them in September when we found out, and I was almost 20 weeks and showing at Thanksgiving. So they knew. Anyway, we've previously mentioned the smoking to Phil, who has been the one communicating between us and the uncle, and he said that they wouldn't smoke around said child. For those who know, and maybe those that don't, being in a different room doesn't negate being affected by the smoke. It makes everything smell like cigarettes. You can still be inhaling it. I personally get heinous migraines from it, and the science is in. We know it's extremely harmful for children. So it's not great, and we don't want to put our child in that kind of environment. We don't feel like we can ask them to smoke outside though. It will likely cause an issue given that any previous request for accommodations, such as asking to be able to spend time with my family and miss some of their celebration, resulted in toxic conflict. We also feel it may be disrespectful to ask them to change how they operate in their own home. I've always been taught that you should accommodate the guests you invite into your space and therefore feel that we should be able to ask this of them. Especially since we're asking with the health of our child in mind and not because we just want to be difficult. I feel I should also add that, respectfully declining the invitation in the interest of the health of our child will likely also not go over smoothly. Any invitation, big or small, that we have declined previously, regardless of the reason, has been met with hostility. It usually consists of both aggressive verbal conflicts and emotional manipulation. So it feels a bit like, unless we just shut up and go, we're screwed no matter what we do. Update 1. Eve found it really helpful and some have even been educational. Sometimes going to your friends who will always take your side just isn't enough, so it's nice to know that there are many strangers who think we're not insane. So thank you. Second, I asked my parents' opinion on the situation in the interest of ensuring I didn't misunderstand the lesson I learned in childhood.
i.e., accommodate the guests you invite into your space.
Essentially, they said the same thing the rest of you did. We can't demand that they do anything within their own home, and we definitely can't ask upon arriving on their doorstep. Which was never the plan. Some of you commented that we were well within our right to ask, as long as we did so in advance. I should have clarified that that was our intention, which is why we're asking now. Third, I asked my brother's opinion as well because he's really good at looking at situations from all sides and providing an unbiased opinion. Again, he said the same things you all did. So that makes us feel better as well. Lastly, there were many of you who said we need to grow backbones or be adults, etc. While you are correct and we agree, the development of backbones is a current work in progress. The toxicity and manipulation that occurs with this side of his family in particular is a fairly recent revelation for the both of us. Our eyes were not open to this behavior until I was pregnant and our priorities shifted from appeasing the said child. So we're still in the process of learning to identify the manipulation, as it is ever changing as we continue to be resistant, and how to handle the situation. While I am well versed in dealing with toxic family members and their tantrums, thanks Mom, my husband is not. We, unfortunately, cannot just turn off all 25 plus years of training he received to appease and pacify them and instantly be good at putting our foot down. We're getting there, hubby's in therapy and it's helping a lot, but the holidays are especially difficult, so we needed a little extra help. Update 2. It really helps to know that our choices are correct when we're constantly told we're in the wrong. Second, hubby called them on Tuesday. It was supposed to have been a team effort. Him tackling these things alone has led them to believe that he's just parroting my words and not that we make these decisions together. Thus aiding and painting me as the bad guy. This was discussed and remedied. Anywho, hubby called and stated we would love to come and see you for the holidays, but we don't want to put our kid in that kind of environment and expose him to those kinds of things. We know that that's how you choose to live your life, so we're going to respect that and politely say no, thank you. They then returned with an offer not to smoke in the house and to deep clean before we arrived. Honestly, we're absolutely floored. Never in a million years did we think they would offer that, let alone do so without conflict or resistance. While I'm sure there will be things said behind our backs or dirty looks shared while we're not in the room, we don't really care. If it's not important enough to say to my face, I don't need to know about it. At least dirty looks won't give my kid diseases. We'll see if that actually do like they said. Update 3. Well everybody, I know it's been a while. To recap, we spent Thanksgiving out of state with my husband's family. The hosts smoke in their house and had agreed, prior to the event, not to smoke in the house so as to not expose our child to it. Drumroll please, they didn't smoke in the house. They actually were incredibly considerate, respected anything we asked regarding our kiddo and said kiddo had so much fun. Sorry it's not much of a dramatic finale, but yay for positive outcomes and, more importantly, protecting the health and well-being of children. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time. I'm glad your kiddo had fun and that the smoking was a non-issue.